Hello, and welcome to 5 for Friday for this Friday, June 17th. We're now back in my home office. The news this week might be dominated by bad news like inflation and war and January 6th hearings, but my focus is more on signals of change for the future that could impact small business owners like you. So these stories might be less noticed by some of you, and I do have to admit I read way too much news, which seems to impact the number of stories I keep putting into my 5 for Friday. So I hope you find all this information to be interesting and helpful and not overwhelming and unimportant. So with that, let's get started. And we will start with story number 1 has to do with small business topics in the news this week. This includes a change to the definition of a small business by the SBA. This could alter the number of eligible small businesses that can do work for the government as a small business. So keep that in mind if that impacts your business. In addition, take a look at Apple Pay and Apple Pay Later, their new service, for small businesses that help you accept credit cards for your business without needing a third-party payer. If you are hiring remotely overseas, be careful as North Korean hackers are applying for jobs disguised as remote workers from other countries and then pilfering when and where they can. And of course, always be careful when hiring independent contractors to be sure you don't run into trouble with that independent contractor versus employee law like Uber and Lyft seem to be running into in many states this week in Massachusetts. You can also take a look at the newsletter for news on a shopping mall takeover by startups supported by the SBDC and a list of cheap or no-cost benefits you can offer to your employees to encourage retention at a time when that can be a challenge. All right, moving on to story number 2. Let's switch from small business to big business. I am still in a state of belief about this news story that a car insurance company, Geico in this case, was held accountable to a woman getting a sexually transmitted disease because the sex occurred in the car which was insured by them. Crazy. She got $5.2 million, by the way, which is less than Charles Schwab had to turn over to the SEC. Without officially admitting guilt, the company paid $187 million to settle the charge that it misled clients on robo-advisor fees. In other big business news, the near monopoly for chip manufacturing is putting cell phone companies, among others, in a bind when it comes to next-generation products. Beer distribution has become a near monopoly over the past few years. And speaking of monopolies, Apple claims that 98% of all new cars already have access to AirPlay in the car. Interesting. Moving on to story number 3, robots, AI, and other tech in the news. Our world is turning into a dystopian movie. I think I've said that before, but this time we're complete with robotic warfare, sentient AI entities, packages delivered by drone, and virtual humans partnering with actual humans, perhaps using Apple's upcoming new mixed reality headset. And we've also got tiny tracking devices to track food from farm to table, and new photonic quantum computers that are light years, maybe not literally, faster than existing supercomputers. So think about where your business fits into this new world. I don't want to say brave new world. All right, moving on to story number 4, where we look at the impact of climate change. First, we're seeing huge weather issues, including severe droughts and extreme heat advisories in the US as well as in Europe. But we're still struggling to get closer to carbon neutral because, for one reason, we can't store power from wind or solar energy without more batteries, which are hard to come by. But we're seeing more and more companies setting carbon-free goals, which is a step in the right direction. So, and for story number 5, let's talk about digital marketing. We do have a near monopoly now, or oligopoly, with Amazon taking 3rd place in digital advertising behind Google and Facebook. However, other retailers are creating their own marketing platforms, and that includes Walmart and Walgreens, and their key selling point is their shopper data. So again, selling us and our information for marketing purposes. So just be sure if you're paying for ads that your potential customers are actually watching them. It turns out some streaming services have been showing ads on televisions that are turned off, which is causing a waste of over $1 billion a year in ad fees paid. And consider also coming together with your fellow small business owners to share an online platform as a sort of digital shopping mall of products and services. This is a growing trend. And then let's talk about our recession topic for the week. I would say right now, not looking good. All the stories I found were negative, or in other words, positive for a recession, negative to read about. So keep that in mind. And then there's one bonus story at the end of the newsletter having to do with my favorite non-Wisconsin company that's supposed to be in Wisconsin, which would be Foxconn. So take a look at the newsletter for the latest from Foxconn. And I hope you have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week on 5 for Friday. Thanks.